Our second topic today is on the comparative research method. Simply put, the comparative method. The comparative method. You know, we mentioned that as comparativists, we are engaged in Darlington, please mute your microphone.
Sorry, Dad.
So we said that as comparativists, we do systematic comparison of cases, whether countries, whether institutions, whether organizations or sectors, be as it may, or across time, we are comparing what cases or phenomena. So it is important that we become aware of how to do the comparison. How exactly do we do the comparison? That brings us to our second topic, which is the comparative method. The comparative method. Okay. All right, the comparative method, dear friends. So today we will be looking at some traditions in comparative politics. There have been 3 traditions. What was the nature of comparative politics before and comparative politics in contemporary times? Then we look at the types of comparative study methods, whether case study, qualitative, quantitative, historical. Then forms of comparative analysis, as well as some key terms we use when we are doing comparative research. How do we select our cases so that we don't engage in the popular refrain, you are comparing oranges to apples? So in selecting our cases very well, in selecting our cases to compare, there are some procedures or some protocols. And I like it when our comparativist was saying that there have been some monarchies that have been doing well, others have not been doing well. So if when you are selecting cases, you select only those that are doing well, then you also, So how do we select cases in doing our comparison so that we don't engage in research bias in our CP adventure? All right, my dear friends, we say that comparison is one of the oldest tools of political science found in the work of Aristotle. And can you describe the work done by Aristotle? Who can describe the work done by Aristotle? Yes, how many states did he examine?
158.
158 city states.
158 city states. Okay. What did he seek to find out?
Whether the government
is being
the
stable.
system of government is stable and then effective.
Okay, good. So which kind of government or political system will be more stable and effective? Now, what 2 dimensions did he use?
The modest.
What 2 dimensions did he use?
Stability.
He used the number of people which governed and then in whom the rulers ruled. Was it in their interest or the interest of the people?
Thank you. Isaac, you're
welcome.
What did he find out? What did he find out? What were his observations? I mean, what was his finding or conclusion? Yes, Desi Daniel, comparative. Desi.
Yes, sir.
Effectiveness and
Yes, Desi Daniel.
Yes, sir, please.
Okay.
My network took me out, so I wanted you to start again, please.
Desi Daniel.
Yes, sir.
So for how long have you been away? How long?
Oh, just 2 minutes or 3 minutes ago.
Okay.
Yes.
So in fact, we are just starting, and I today we are looking at comparative research methods. Since we mentioned that CP is about systematic comparison of cases, okay, whether countries or organizations, systems, institutions, we do systematic comparison. And so this topic, we are going to look at how do we do the comparison. That is the how of comparative politics. And I just read the first paragraph here, which says that comparison is one of the oldest tools of political science found in the work of Aristotle. And I made the class go over the comparative analysis that was done by Aristotle. Okay, so the class is just reflecting on what we did early on about the work done by Aristotle. So, and I asked the question which Mabel wanted to answer. Mabel, from Aristotle's study, Zinyaku, right? What was his conclusion? Oh, yes, comfort. Yes, comfort. Yes, comfort body. Comparative is C. Unmute your mic.
Okay, so he concluded that the best political system which rulers should use to govern their state was should be in the long interest of the community or of the people.
Thank you. So those systems, political systems or states, where the leaders ruled in the long-term best interest of the people, would be more stable and effective over time. All right. Now, some have argued that the scientific study of politics is unavoidably comparative. I've mentioned that. If you agree that political science is a science, then comparative politics is regarded as the methodological core of the scientific study of politics. No two ways about that. You agree political science is a science. We are adding that comparison, and for that matter, comparative politics is the methodological core of the scientific study of politics. Right. Now, the research method that one will use depends on there are different approaches in doing comparative study, but the approach one will use will depend on the time and the resources available. If you don't have enough time, you cannot go through 158 city states. We comparativists, as we are currently, we cannot engage in such kind of study to go through maybe going to different countries to observe. No, we cannot. So it depends on the time and the resources available. Okay. So for example, even when people are selecting their research topics, then they are coming to do their proposal, we ask them whether it is feasible. One of my students who was supervising his PhD, his topic, he wanted to examine 4 countries, which he called latecomer developing states. They were latecomers in terms of development, and how the international trade system, WTO, affects latecomer in our development countries. And he selected 4 countries, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and one other. And when he went for the defense, the question was, is it feasible? How will you get data? Are you going to Nigeria, South Africa, and what have you? So, and that was a genuine question. The time and resources available, okay? So that is one. Sometimes with the method with which the researcher is most comfortable. Some people may prefer quantitative because they like figures and numbers, calculations, statistics. Some may also prefer qualitative because they are very good in reporting. They are very good in describing phenomena. Once there's an accident and you want them to report or describe, oh, Charlie, we shall report. It might even feel that you were there at the scene. Such people may also, they may prefer qualitative study, which is more about describing phenomenon, okay, using words, gestures, images, and the likes to describe. Sometimes also, it is based on the epistemological preferences of the researcher. Yes. So quantitatives, mostly they are positivist. Well, maybe they believe that the best way to study or understand a phenomenon is through collecting and then testing quantitative data. Some also prefer or argue that you cannot reduce everything to numbers. And so for them, if you engage in research and you don't add some qualitative elements, then it doesn't sit well with them very well. Okay. For example, the recent flooding. People's homes are flooded. Let's say Yeboah-Assiamah got flooded. Which areas did not get flooded?
Sir, please, my area, Ashoman Estate.
Ashoman Estate. So then, as a comparativist, you want to find out why did Yeboah-Assiamah or Alaju get flooded, but Ashoman Estate did not witness flooding. Now, Simon, please mute your microphone. Why did Yeboah-Assiamah get flooded or Alaju get flooded, but Ashoman Estate did not get flooded? Now, if this is a kind of a study, you want to do a comparison to see what Ashoman did right, or the context of Ashoman and that of Alaju or Yeboah-Assiamah. Now, some people believe that, this one, flooding, and how do you reduce this to figures or numbers? Okay, so the best way would be to ask people questions for them to describe, sometimes the emotions with which they are speaking, or the way people are crying and having they scream, they make exclamation marks and what have you. All those, they are part of the data that you are collecting. They help with regards to how you know the intensity of the issue and the rest, okay? But some people may also think that, to better do this, you need quantitative, figures and whatever. So there are different epistemological preferences. When people are affected by flooding, how would you reduce their emotions, the way they are crying? How will you use figures to describe that? Is it possible that you can use, maybe you can say 70% of the people were crying. Were crying. But my dear friends, let's look at the 3 traditions in comparative politics. In an attempt to find out how politics works or operates, CP entails 3 main traditions, which helps us to understand CP. The first tradition Sarah. Gloria also. Okay, Gloria. The first tradition is the study of single countries. The first tradition, comparativists were mostly focused on studying single countries. Let's say if they would take US, they would do an in-depth study of the American system, its executive, the legislature, judiciary, its electoral system. I mean, detailed assessment of single countries. So they will realize that, oh, America, when you go there, if you are a minister, you cannot be an MP. You have to resign. Or if you are if you are if you want to be a minister, you need to be outside the parliament. If you are a member of parliament, you want to be a minister, you have to resign and all that. And so, well, this is a presidential system, okay? Oh, when you go to, America, the executive is headed by only one person, and he is both the head of state and head of government. This one is what a monocephalous executive. So, study what single countries and do detailed assessment of it. Or when you go to the US, they have the lawmaking body has two chambers, the upper chamber and then the lower chamber. It has a bicameral legislature, detailed assessment. Or when you go to UK, so they say you are doing a detailed assessment of the UK. Or when you take the executive, it is headed by two people. We have the head of state being the monarch. We have the head of government being the prime minister. Okay, this one has a bicephalous executive. Oh, in UK, the parliament, well, the ministers are also members of parliament. If you want to be a minister, you should be a parliamentarian first. So this one is a parliamentary system, So it was study of single countries, detailed assessment of single countries. The second tradition was methodological. Methodological was concerned with establishing rules and standards of comparative analysis. So you see, for things to be systematic, there should be standard. You see, in the natural sciences, they have a standard way of doing things. That is why there is greater precision. If you go to hospital A and then they test you and realize that you have, let's say, COVID-19, and you say, no, this one there, Odeshi, Mbano, you don't believe it. Then you go to another hospital. If indeed you have it, you go to another hospital, they will go through the same procedure and then it will be the same result. If you go to another facility, what will happen? If you go to another, let's say you go to a third facility, what is likely to happen? Yes. Hello? They will take you through the same test. If they are to test for COVID, they have to go through the same test. And then it will be the same outcome. And so they have the standard way of testing for COVID-19. If it is HIV/AIDS, we have a standard way of testing. So whether you go to hospital A or B, if you go to Bole, Volta, BA, because it is same procedure, if indeed you have the thing, the results will be same. So in comparative politics, since we also want it to be more scientific, so that if comparativist Desi Adenyo goes to the space or goes to the area to do the research and finds out that, oh, for a government to be stable over time or to be effective over time, it should rule in the best interest of the people. Then, if comparativist Mabel, okay, should go there and will follow the same procedures that the Daniel comparativists used, comparativist Mabel should also get a similar outcome. If comparativist Michael goes there and follows the same procedure, he should get a similar outcome. That is what research. Research is not, journalism, where different journalists will go to the same program or function, but at the end of the day, each one is telling different stories. Different stories, sometimes uncoordinated. If it is research, it should be what? Similar thing be what? Hard with regards to conclusions or findings. So the second tradition, comparativists were interested. How do we establish the standards of doing research, comparative research? So the goal was to come up with establishing the rules. What are the rules, standard operating procedures, the standards that must be followed, the method that researchers must go through in order to come up with valid findings? This tradition addresses the question of how comparative analysis should be carried out in order to enhance their robustness. If we are using the findings to describe, we are doing what? Vivid description. The description is the actual truth. It reflects what is on the ground. Okay? That is the second tradition, which was methodological, establishing the rules and standards of comparative analysis. The third tradition, my dear friends, is analytical, which combines empirical substance and methods. So the third tradition, you take cases, which is a substance, and then you go through the standard procedures of research. That's analytical. For example, when I mentioned there was flooding in Yeboah-Assiamah, but no flooding in Ashongman estates. Okay, so these are the empirical substance. Okay, these are the cases. Ashongman estates, Yeboah or Amassamai. So you combine, now you go through the scientific process. Okay, scientific process. So once you combine substance with the methods which have been established in the second tradition, the procedure, maybe, you design your questionnaires, you distribute the questionnaires to the people, you come and analyze or whatever. That is what the method, okay? Or if it is qualitative, you design your interview guides, go to the field, you come back, you code them, you form your themes, you analyze, draw a conclusion, combining substance with methods. This one is concerned with identification and explanation of differences and similarities between cases or countries and their institutions, actors, processes, through systematic comparison, like the one I've just done. So at the end of the day, you will see what Ashongman Estate does, or the context of Ashongman Estate, making it maybe not susceptible to flooding. And you also see those conditions or context of Yeboah or Amassamah, making it flood-prone areas. Now, the cases can be based on large number of cases. Sometimes you can take on many cases, over 160, over 100, cases, like what we will be doing when we get to democracy. We will take large cases. So that is what we call large N. The N stands for number of cases. So it can be based on large number of cases, like what the EIU does with their democracy index. They use over 168 different cases. That is large number of cases. It can also be small n. The n denotes number of cases. It can be small number of cases, okay? It can either be qualitative or quantitative. All right. Let's see, what exactly does CP do in practice? Last week we talked about what we compare. Can you remind us? In CP, what do we compare? We mentioned that
similarities and differences.
Okay. And we mentioned that we compare three important things. Mention them. We focus our attention on three important things.
Internal political structures.
Internal political structures, good. Any other?
Their processes.
Their process is good. Last one.
Individual and collective
Individuals and
actors.
collective.
Individual and collective actors. This is a very sharp class. Good. Then also, let's go to the 5 I's by Peters. The alternative ways. What are the 5 I's?
Individuals.
Institutions.
Institutions.
Interest.
Ideas.
International environment. And the sixth one is interactions. Okay. So, yes, you've mentioned the things we compare. So I want to bring your attention that we also compare things like the similarities and differences between cases, whether there are differences or what have you. Okay. So we also compare non-national political systems. So we don't just compare, countries, but non-national political systems. Like I mentioned, Yeboah-Assiamah. Yeboah-Assiamah is not a state; it's just a town found in Ghana. Alajo is a town found in Ghana, so it is non-national political system. Okay, it is found within a political system. It is non-national. So was the first week of lecture, the cover page, you saw the flags of different countries. Then we said that comparative politics, we compare similarities and differences between countries or political systems. Today we are adding it up here that we don't only focus on national systems, we also compare non-national political systems. You can compare Adenta and Medina, okay?
Sure.
Adenta and then Medina, maybe in terms of local government effectiveness, why one is able to generate more local revenue, but the other is not. You are engaged in comparative analysis. You can compare, you see in US, they have a different subnational systems. In US, at least 50 states. Mention any of the states in the US.
New York.
New York, okay, good. Ohio, Texas,
New Jersey.
California,
New Jersey, Mississippi. Yes. So you can do comparative assessment. You can do comparative assessment of any of these subnational systems. It is still, comparative. In Nigeria, can you mention any of the states in Nigeria?
Abuja.
Lagos.
Lagos State. Anambra.
Anambra, Kanu, and the rest.
Imo State.
Imo State.
Edo State.
Cross Rivers. Kaduna. Abia State. Miss Abia, Miss Cross Rivers. So if you can compare two different states, why is this state effective but the others are not? You are still doing comparative, even though they are sub-national system. You can compare regions. You want to compare Sub-Saharan Africa and then Western Europe. Why Western Europe is developed, why also Sub-Saharan, why, how the Asian tigers developed, okay, or comparing the growth trajectory of the Asian tigers and maybe the situation of Sub-Saharan Africa. You can also do supranational organization like the EU, the African Union, and the rest. Okay. All right. My dear friends, we have covered a lot today. I'll pause here if you have questions. Any question? Comment? You have
Hello,
a lot.
sir, please, I have a question.
Yes, Isaac.
Sir, please, thank you very much for the point. Republic, you've taught us today about what a Republican state is. My question is, with countries that assume the position of Republican states, they call themselves Republicans, even a Republican state, but in practice, in practice, you find out that they are practicing maybe tyranny or anything that is not really what Republican represents. A country like Togo, where we all know that it is not the wish of the people to have only one family rule them up to date. They've tried several ways to overturn them and not, but they still call themselves the Republican state of Togo. Sir, please, I would like to know, is it just the use of a title, or when it doesn't really conform to it, when the people still call themselves Republicans, we should just disregard it?
Exactly. That is why you are comparativist. Okay. So let's say someone is poor. Someone is poor and then they call themselves rich. They call themselves rich. Even though, they want to deceive people, they wear some nice clothing, even they go and borrow some things. And if you know the features of poverty or a poor person, and then the person is parading as a wealthy person, you can clearly call them out. Okay, even Iran. You see, you do know Iran? Iran calls itself Islamic Republic of Iran or something. Yes, but clearly it is not. It's not a republic. So they just want the outside world to know that, well, that is, their form of democracy. When we get to democracy, you even get to know that those states that call themselves democracy, not all of them are democracies worth their salt. You talk of what? Liberal democracy and illiberal democracy. That even what talks about the Republican status, okay, of these systems. Yes, Patrick.
Yes, thank you, Doc.
After Patrick, then Dion. Okay.
My first question is about the French colonies in Africa. I want to know if they had actually attained Republican status, and if so, do they still pay allegiance to their former colonial masters? Thank you, sir.
Okay, good. Yes, Dion. Yes, Dion.
All right. So with the three kinds of political system identified by is it Montesquieu?
Yes.
We saw the Republican system, some examples with the monarchical system. And with the despotic system, where we say a single person rule based on their own perspective, I was trying to figure out whether we have some countries which practice that.
Which one?
Please. With the despotic systems.
Despotic systems.
Yes.
We have who wants to answer that?
Doc, me.
Yes,
Doc,
Kendrick.
good evening.
Yes.
Please, even Ghana, currently Ghana is practicing despotic system. So,
my brother.
Miss Dion.
No.
I want to, okay, Doc,
North
please.
Korea
I want to
North Korea is a
I want to explain
good.
my
I like the North Korea example. You can even mention those that made coup, okay? Those states where you have military rulers, okay, and there are a lot of these, authoritarian regimes, authoritarian states, especially those with military. All these can be classified under, okay, under this.
Yes. So can Burkina Faso region, can it be described as one of it?
Yes, based on the regime. Okay, based on the regime, you may want to say that, well, this is what a despotic system.
All right.
But Prof, the people are happy. The people are happy with the rule. So how is it a despotic?
Well, it depends. You see, these systems, we call them promissory coup, okay? Promissory coup. So the people may be happy in the morning, especially in the early days when they are in the honeymoon period. Even in Ghana, the 1979 uprising, many people were happy, okay? Junior Jesus, but with time, people will be fed up with the military rule. Now they will want their freedoms and their lives, okay? Then with the French colonies, their case, yes, that is something which they are trying to assert their sovereignty with time. They are trying to assert their sovereignty. The new leaders have cancelled most of the things that they had to be doing with the French system, okay? But insofar as the people can elect their own leaders, and then yes, they have their own people ruling them, you might want to say that, well, nominally they are Republicans, but if you want to be more critical with regards to the things they do and how sometimes some historical decisions that were made in the past, or some say some treaties or what have you, some obligations they have to settle with their colonial masters, then you may want to question the kind of Republican status and what have you, okay? But you will say they are, but you want to put on your comparativist lens to be more critical. Then you say this is not Republican wet is salt, okay? Yeah. Felix.
Doc, please.
No, Felix. Felix. Let Felix finish.
Yes. I just want your view on this. Actually, American soldiers went to this country to ambush or catch their president. That president is recently in the US. So, I mean, which one is this one?
Okay. Thank you. Yes. So that is something which international law, okay. See the Treaty of Westphalia and other subsequent treaties, treats the sovereignty of states as such. And so, but this one is about bigger states trying to do what pleases them. And you know that the international system doesn't have a police, doesn't have a government. And so It is sometimes about the interest of the bigger powers. Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, cannot just do that to a sovereign state like that. Yeah. So these are some of the politics that to go on in the international system. Not only in the international, even in our part of the world. Come to Ghana, the rich may sometimes do certain things which the law does not permit, but they do it anyway. You see that? Yes.
Oh, sure. Money,
So clearly,
money.
clearly, it is not to say that the citizen that is weak or poor doesn't have human rights, but then the rich will do it anyway, bearing any consequence. They know that, well, maybe they will have access to big lawyers or quality lawyers, and nothing will happen to them. Okay. It is not to say that the weak one doesn't have rights or the constitution doesn't guarantee him or her rights. All right. Hey, my dear friends, you don't want us to close today.
We are enjoying the class.
Simon.
Good evening once again.
Kendrick, are you there?
I wanted to find out something.
Yes, Doug, please.
Simon here.
Yes,
okay,
Doug.
let Simon finish.
Okay.
All right. Sir.
Okay, Doug. Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have two things to talk. First of all, I want to talk so far as the comparative politics concerned. I want to know, Doug, last beginning of the year, something happened. One Russian guy came here to fight to exploit a lot of our women. And it was that, according to Russian constitution, it is hard for them to allow their citizen to be extradited. 2 days ago, one of ours, Abutrika, popular name is Abutrika, was carried from Ghana to USA. I don't know, Master, so far as the comparative politics concerned, their constitution, why must their constitution operate within their jurisdiction, and also operate within our jurisdiction? And ours cannot do so. Second question is, I want to know, Doug, what type of system are we using in Ghana? Are we using presidential system or neo-presidential system, or I don't know? I want to find out. Thank you, sir.
So the second one is simple. We are using a new presidential system, which is a hybrid of the presidential and then the parliamentary. Okay. So that one you are fine. Then also the Russian guy and then the Abutrika case. You see, that's why as comparativists, we mentioned that to understand the phenomenon, maybe let's take Peters. What are the institutions of these two separate states? US and Ghana have a treaty. They have an institution. They have extradition or treaty. This is a mutual agreement that if the US wants someone from Ghana, Ghana through its laws can make the process to extradite the citizen, or the person who is in Ghana to the US, and the US also does same. So Ghana and US, they have that bilateral, treaty.
Okay,
Ghana doesn't have same with Russia, or Russia doesn't have same with Ghana. Okay, so then by international law, it is not so. So this one is in the realms of international law. So the institutions, what are the institutions? Well, this one, there's a treaty between Ghana and US. So that was why people were saying that we could also activate for them to bring maybe either Ken or some they said the Natamakulu or someone, of course. So that is it. Who else? Okay, Kendrick.
Yes, Doug. Doug, please forgive me. It was the earlier comment I made. It was just for.
Okay, so we should proceed.
To laugh about, yeah. And then also, secondly, it is just that I don't understand why Ghana is so underdeveloped, and I believe it is the doing of our leaders. Why do I say that? I say this because if you Google or if you do a little research about the lowest minimum wage in West Africa, Ghana, in some aspects, Ghana is the lowest. In other aspects, Ghana is the second lowest. And but then Ghana, if you notice or you realize or you find out that Ghana has the second highest GDP in the whole West Africa. So you just can't understand why even Benin has a higher minimum wage than Ghana, Togo, and Co. So I just don't understand and all that. So that is the reason why I actually made that.
Okay, that's good comparative assessment. So that's how we do comparative assessment. Then you take, different cases and then you get the key variables and then you can do your conclusion. Felix. Or Ebenezer. Are we all fine?
Yeah, sir, good evening.
Good evening.
The Republican states that we talk about concerning the Francophone countries, and also when you mention that the citizens will hail you, and after some time, they will quote unquote demonize you. So don't you also think that it is also the West's influence on some people which have the leverage to also try to demonize like what they did to Nkrumah and even Jerry Rawlings? I say this because I believe that up until now, France is colonizing the Francophone countries. Based on what happened in their system, France doesn't the Francophone countries doesn't have a central bank, so they put all their monies in France and they give them a percentage. How do I work and put the money in somebody else's account? Then when I need the money, they will give me how much they want to give me, not that they can give me all. And if I want extra, it will be given to me as a loan. Then you say that I am a Republican or I am independent. Is it because the leaders who came after the independence was given did not go back to rectify those conditions and take them off the books, which this man has done, Traore has done, and now they are trying to topple him. So is it that because the West believe that they are powerful, they can do anything to us based on their interest? Or say maybe
yes,
I'm not making.
No. You have made a lot of sense. Yes, and the answer is yes, because they are powerful, and the international system. I believe in. You see, this semester you are learning international relations, international politics. You will see that in the international system, states are there to champion their interest. That is what we call realpolitik. Realism, that theory, realism, realpolitik. And so states are there to...
Is genocide.
Sorry?
A United Nations cannot... Israel had nuclear weapons. United Nations not talking about just issuing communique or communique, and it's not water, and the people are still doing what they are doing. And at the end of the day, they can enter into Venezuela. They are preparing to go to Cuba. And you have Marco Rubio, who is a Cuban national. His father's, left Gaddafi's, Castro's regime, came to America. And now he's a Secretary of State and is pushing for Trump to go to Cuba. Is it because they feel like, look at what they have done? Now Cuba doesn't have electricity. And no African country can even help Cuba. No African country can even say that Cuba supported us. Cuba supported most of the African countries. Chevo Guerra, or whatever they call his name. He came to fight for us. But at the end of the day, now everybody is scared because you try to help somebody, you are thinking of even sanctions.
You are the next target. Yes. Yeah, and if you understand how the UN operates, you will know that the UN, the Security Council, has some permanent members, and for decisions to be made, if any of these members object to it, then the UN cannot, the Security Council cannot, make any intervention. And this big man that is doing all these things you are talking about is one of these who have the veto powers. And so, glad you are reading international relations this semester. You understand how the international system operates. It's more about sometimes dialoguing and speaking to the conscience of these bigger states, to do better, because none of them would want to stick their neck out because they don't want to stand the way of their friends or the big boys in the system. But usually through diplomacy and yes, that is how it is. That is how it is. And
are we living in a fair world?
No, we are not living in a fair world. No, we are not living in a fair world. So even when you read international law, we will ask you whether that is a question that never ends, whether international law is law at all, or they are just some codes or some ethical principles principles to guide the international system, whether they are laws or they are not. And I remember that day I answered and said that, well, you see, whether or not we see it as a law depends on the context of the state. If you are a small state, quickly they will give you some sanctions. If you are a big state, who gives the sanctions? And so it is law, but then the way it bites is just, and well, of course, it is just like municipal law. So don't get it twisted. Even in national states like Ghana, there are laws, but the law works. Sometimes it depends on who is involved. Okay? Is that not correct?
Then it comes to the 5 eyes that you've taught us.
It depends. Sometimes, you see, someone will do something, the next 2 hours they have finished sentencing the person, he's serving. Another person to take like 5 years and, then it becomes foolish case. You get it? So it's the same thing.
Supersedes the interest of everything.
It's the same thing that operates in the international system.
Yeah,
so in the international system, the poor states, they are like the poor citizens. And so, but that is how it is. Michael, wrap up and then let's close.
I want to just say, since the international system is headless, more or less anarchic.
Well, not so anarchic.
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, for that reason, it's like the international system, mind is right. Nobody will say nothing happens. So mind is right.
Not really. So sometimes there are some diplomatic talks. Okay. Yes, some diplomatic talks, and the balance of power helps in most of these things. So it is not too anarchic, but in a way you can say it is, okay, because the laws hardly will bite the bigger powers. And so as comparativists, when Russia was attempting to invade Ukraine, the very thing that came to mind was that, hey, if Russia is done with Ukraine, then China may likely do same to Taiwan, because the kind of relationship between Russia and Ukraine, it is similar to that of China and Taiwan. And if Russia does that, and successful, and China might do same. So yeah, you could say, but there are laws. Okay, there are laws, there are institutions, except that its enforcement is usually skewed. Same as what happens in national systems. You understand that. Maybe national system. But national systems are orderly. They are ordered in a way more than the international system. But the body of rules help to shape the world, and to some extent, it has kept the world, in one accord since 1945. There has not been any, major total war, or if you like, world war, since the formation of the UN. The international system has been relatively stable, except that there are pockets of challenges which should not defeat the bigger goal of maintaining international peace and security. Okay, there are several ways that they help. You have laws of the seas that protect how mankind and other states would use the sea, where your limits will end and which ones are for international waters. Things about climate. So in a way, we have global governance, except that not everything is well, but to a greater extent, things are better, okay, than being in a total anarchic system where each one will be doing what they want. No, but there are some regulations, okay, but the enforcement is what sometimes is key, because we don't have a world police. You don't have a world police, okay? You don't have a world soldier. You don't have world police, world soldier, but we have courts. We have the International Court of Justice and International Criminal Courts and the likes. Clementina. Clementina. All right, my dear friends. So let me thank you very much for your time. You have made the class today more participatory. Your contributions are top-notch, and I like them. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.
We thank you to our prof. Thank you. Bye.